Blog Talk Radio.
Opening music provided by bensound.com. Welcome everyone to today's Earth Energy Forecast Show on this May 12th, 2020. Thank you for tuning in today, or if you're listening later to the podcast. And I am your host, Joan Cerio. Well, today we were going to have Maya Starhawk back on the show. That's what I had said last week, and something came up for Maya. But as it always works out, because the universe is always supporting us in ways we never know how, I have another guest that just works out so perfectly because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So today I'm going to bring on a guest that is just perfect for this month and for this show. We're going to talk about mental health today, and certainly a topic that I know is probably on many people's minds, no matter how well balanced you may be, how spiritual you may be. These are challenging times. So I'm going to bring on Dorothy Wallace, who has a private practice with an MA in marriage and family therapy. She's a psychotherapist, certified clinical hypnotherapist, and an international spiritual teacher at the forefront of the consciousness movement. For over 30 years, Dorothy has grounded her practice in meditation, family systems, relationships, and emotional growth. Her work reflects efficacious modalities of alternative approaches to healing for individuals and couples based upon the latest research in science, human energy fields, psychology, and spirituality. Her websites are The Doorway, and that is DORway.com, and heartfulnesspath.com. Her email address is thedoorway, D-O-R, so that's THEDORWAY @gmail.com. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show in such notice, Dorothy, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joan. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I'm just so glad that this worked out so wonderfully today, so we can talk about this topic, because I've been wanting to do this and to dedicate a show to this, because it's really vital to get information out to people about this topic. So I'm going to begin with a question that's really been on my mind. You started out as a mechanical design engineer and ended up designing PC boards. How in the world did you end up becoming a psychotherapist?
Well, the path and the journey has all been inner guided, and I will say that it actually started way before I was an engineer, back in the Midwest, growing up on the land, out in the country, with my relationship to nature and developing that sense of love for life and the cycles of life, and through my grandmother as well, learning about that relationship is so important. So not only the relationship with plants and the earth and animals and insects, but with people as well. And so that guided my journey, even as an engineer, that for me it was all about the humane treatment of others and being cooperative rather than competitive in that environment, which can be very competitive, and to find solutions. And this led me at one point, with the birth of my daughter, to go further and deeper into that inner realm of human relationship. And with that, I left engineering and began working with special needs children at the school district. And through that journey, my empathy grew and compassion for the plight of people with disabilities and with abuse. And so that led me into psychotherapy. Yet even before that, my journey was really with metaphysics and with meditation. So the inner journey has always been very important to me and has guided me. And so then that led me into really that field of psychotherapy.
So it's interesting because nature is such a great teacher. We can learn so much from nature, and from hearing what you said, that you started to focus on relationships and cooperation, and we see that throughout nature, how everything is interrelated and how things, have to work together or cooperate in order for an ecosystem to exist and for all of us to exist, all species on this planet.
Yes, absolutely. And to bring them all into balance, right? You see how nature brings things into equilibrium and into balance. And so that was really the teaching that was so profound in that relationship that I had with nature, to bring that into the realm of, human life and how we can become centered, grounded, and to be in balance.
Something that's a challenge right now for many of us to stay that way. Yes. Because we're going through unprecedented times and accelerated change right now. So what emotions may we expect to feel at this time? What's natural for us to feel now?
Well, the most natural emotion at this time is fear. and that is really, the depths of it for everyone at this time. It doesn't matter kind of what responses we are having at the most basic level, innate level. We have a response of fear, because this is an invisible threat. And we have to remember that we can't see the virus. And so there's the fear of the unknown. It brings up a lot of uncertainty, but it also brings up doubt. So for many people, there's the feeling that, is this even real? Is it really out there? So you have very different responses because of the type of fear that's within people.
And that doubt also can lead to, or the invisibility of the virus, which can lead to doubt, I think can also lead to people forgetting, there's still a virus out there. Oh, I still have to pay attention. I still have to protect others and myself. Do you find that's true?
Exactly. Oh, exactly. So the biggest thing is that this brings up safety and security fears for everyone. So on one level, there's the physical safety. And of course, people with health concerns, this will be their primary fear of how to keep themselves healthy and safe. And those are the people that are complying with the shelter in place, wearing masks, washing their hands, keeping the distance from other people. But then there are other types of security issues that we can see. One of them is, of course, the economic security. So there's loss of jobs right now, and there's uncertainty about the future and their financial security. And this is a major concern for people, and that's why you see differences of opinion around, how to handle the shelter in place or how to handle this threat that we have. And there's one more, which is a huge concern, because we have to see that this is challenging people's value systems. So the loss of freedom is huge for many people. And that is also where you're seeing people that do not want to comply with the stay-at-home orders, or not wearing a mask, or feeling that they can't have the freedom to do what they want. So you find that there's economic concerns, the stress of their loss of freedom, but also then the stress of physical safety, which in turn can cause people to have very differing views on the way to respond to this threat.
And I'm imagining for those that are in their home with their family or with other housemates, whatever, that can present its own stresses because you've been there
Absolutely.
so long with one another. And so
yes,
that has its own set. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
It does. You're right. So what I'm seeing in my practice is there are some people that are now with their families and they're connected, and that is out of their routine, right? Their whole routine and their normalcy of life has changed. And so to be able to relate to others brings up both wonderful connections, and there's an opportunity for that, but also the stress of new responsibilities and of having children at home and having to take care of them. And so everything is, kind of shaken up. But then on the other hand, I have clients where they're isolated and they cannot connect with anyone. And that is causing huge emotional and mental stress because people go into depression. Without connection is so important for us that without that kind of connection, people lose kind of their sense of meaning in life.
Yeah, some sort of identity too. Now, what's really true is people in nursing homes that have not been able to see their family through all of this. Perhaps some can see them through the window, but I have a friend that was able to see her mother through the window the other day on Mother's Day, and she was very concerned about her because she looked like she had lost weight and she was more confused. And so this really takes a toll on this population.
Does, and that part is very devastating because it may be that the people that are in the nursing homes, depending upon their mental cognition, have no way of understanding what is happening. And so that loss of connection can feel like abandonment or rejection.
Yes. And it's just bizarre for us, out with all of our faculties pretty much. And just to be out in society looking at people with masks on, making sure you wash your hands, hurrying through the store because you don't want to be there any longer than you have to. And I can't imagine what it's like to be in a nursing home and then have your family come to you to a window with masks on.
Right. Yeah, because then you can't really talk to them. You can't even see their face and their facial expressions. And that is extremely difficult. Then the other issue is it's very scary. It's very scary. And, so what we're seeing, too, is that there can be extreme long-term effects that we don't even know about yet from this threat that we have right now. That in the long term, other people the isolated ones can become very depressed and even suicidal, especially people that have lost jobs, have lost their financial security. They're not seeing a way out right now. And so then what happens in society is you have a lot of pushback and people becoming angry. And, that's a natural protective response, anger. But when it's projected out onto society or others, of course it's very destructive.
Yes. Do you know of any studies that are ongoing now to study the effects of what we're going through?
Well, I don't know of any in particular, except for that there are a lot of people, in the psychotherapy world, other therapists that I know, that are tracking this, and I imagine that there will be, lots more information and studies that do come out of this. But at the moment, we're still really at the beginning of this, and it's a long-term process to see what happens for people, in the coming year around this. But what's been happening now in the therapy world is actually just helping people cope with this. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that this is a worldwide phenomenon. And because of that, there is something that is very deep, and it's called collective grief, where we may not even realize it, but there's a sadness and a grief because it's difficult to even imagine the world we are in right now. It's something that has never happened before, and we're realizing that people the world over are affected. And so what does this do to an individual? Well, for one thing, it brings up the deepest place of the sadness and grief that may not have arisen in someone before this. And with that, there are different ways of responding to it. So for some people, they're realizing now how we are all one world, how we are all connected to each other, how we are interdependent with one another. And so it can create a lot of empathy and compassion. And then in individual lives, most everyone that I have talked to has known someone who has actually contracted the virus. And actually, in my case, I have a cousin who did and who has passed away now from it. Oh. And so that type of grief, is it's one that's even difficult to fathom or to talk about, because a healthy person coming down with it and then dying so quickly, it's like, what happened? How could that happen? And so at first, we do go through those stages of grief, denial. And denial is one that people are experiencing in different ways. It can be denial that your loved one has passed away, or that this virus is even very deadly. For some people, they're in denial that it can be harmful for people, or that it's just a passing phase. So denial is one of the ways that grief initially shows up. And we can see that in society with all these different responses that people are having right now.
Yes. And then we go through all the other stages of grief. But I'm so sorry to hear about that, first of all, Dorothy, about the loss of your cousin. And the other piece about this time is that we can't be there to have normal, quote unquote, services, however we celebrate their lives, and you can't be together to grieve.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that, for my cousins, the sisters of my cousin, that was one of, right now, they're still dealing with that aspect of not being able to have seen him when he was in the hospital, of not being able to talk to him, comfort him. It is very devastating. It's a very difficult time for people that have loved ones that are in the hospital or are shuttered away even and not knowing their condition. You know, they may be sheltering in place
Yes.
at home and just trying to get through the illness. You know, obviously there's all the issues of that connection again. That's what we're talking about, how the loss of connecting with people and how important it is for our safety, for our security, for meaning in life, and especially with the ones that we care about and love, and how we want to care for them and not being able to be there for them.
Yes, especially for those that are sick in the hospital. How much do you think their mental well-being is playing into how well or if they recover from the virus?
Well, from what I've seen, this hits people pretty quickly. And I know, at least in my cousin's situation, you know, he thought he caught something. You know, he was having some symptoms. The first time that he went in, they just sent him home with some antibiotics, not knowing that it was, you know, COVID. And then my cousin actually convinced him to go back because his symptoms were getting worse, the high fevers. He went in and immediately he was put on a ventilator and put into a coma. So he did not have time to even react to it, right? So I think that's what is happening to many people, is that it's kind of a shock and it's just surprising. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you're powerless, basically. And that, you know, you just end up all of a sudden in a situation where you actually can't do much, and that you're just relying on other people. And right now, for the physicians and the nurses that are in charge, there's so much that is unknown about the virus and the symptoms, and they keep changing. So they're doing their best, and, you know, we can all be very grateful for them because they're working so hard, and there are so many people working on solutions to try to figure out what is happening, the best way to help people and care for people. And it's basically, we're in a big experiment right now, and so it's very challenging.
Yes, in many ways, it's like a war, because we're fighting something, although it's an invisible enemy. But I'm imagining that a lot of the healthcare workers that have been there taking care of all the COVID patients may experience something similar to what soldiers and people in war may experience with post-traumatic stress disorder. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because they're basically doing triage, right? And they're doing it in a way where they, again, they're not, the procedures and the protocols are not something that has been written down. And so they're doing their best with the knowledge that they have. But there's, again, so much that's unknown. And I think that's where we all need to have compassion for the people that are working on this, that, you know, they're not trying to hurt anyone. They're actually, they're caring for people, and they are doing their best to be able to figure out how to help people through this. And one of the beautiful things that had happened with my cousin near the end was that when they couldn't bring him out, when he was basically brain dead from this, they made an exception and had his wife and his son come in and see him. You know, they were masked, and, you know, they took precautions about distancing, but they allowed that moment just to be with him when they took him off the ventilator. And I thought that was so beautiful. They allowed that.
Yes.
And so what we can see is the care, you know, the care that the doctors have for these patients and the nurses and the many hours and of dedication and how they are putting themselves in harm's way as well. And we know that, many of them have contracted the virus from being around it because we still don't know how easily it is transmitted.
And I'm imagining that these people need a lot of mental health support while they're doing all of this. And I don't know that they have even time to process anything, even, let alone get professional assistance. Absolutely.
So, as you were saying, the PTSD that could occur, for the frontline workers, and for all the service people that are still doing jobs, for them too, packages are still being delivered. There are people working in many fields, and they are also, putting themselves out there to help all of us to keep things moving. And I think one of the main things that we need to realize is that people, for the most part, the world over, want to cooperate and want to help others. We do see the people that may not want that, but we have to realize that people care and love for their families, and they want to help others and want to do the best. And if we can keep that in mind and realize that we can do our best then to be kind to others and to appreciate with gratitude what people are doing, then, that can help us too. And we can give where we can. We can share our gifts, and we can help others where we can and reach out to people.
Yeah, I think that's really important, to feel as though we have some power in this situation, that we can do something and feel self-empowered to help in some way. I think that helps quite a bit. How are there other ways? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to talk about that. Thank you. You're very perceptive. The first part is to realize that even if you cannot recognize your own emotion of fear, that there is an underlying sense of fear. And it may be in the people around you, but it's also kind of deep within you. And so the first aspect is to pay attention to your own sense of safety and security. What brings up that fear in you? And then to trust your inner guidance, to take this time. If you are a person who has time on your hands to be able to do this, it is a wonderful moment that we can have the opportunity to actually look inside and feel our own emotions and to see, what is it that I value? What is it that helps me feel safe? And to nourish my own nervous system, because no matter what, it is a stressful time. So check in with yourself and learn about what you need. Nurture yourself, because if you take care of yourself first and you become centered and grounded and you take care of your needs, you're more readily able to help others. So look inside, connect with yourself, and understand at a much deeper level of the meaning that this change and loss has upon you. And see your own vulnerability and the ways in which you have adapted to change and loss in the past. What has helped you? What are your strengths? So instead of this feeling of powerlessness, it's to move to the place of seeing, like, how have I adapted? What have I done in the past that has gotten me through difficult times? And then to be patient with yourself. And don't deny that you have stress or fear. So when those feelings arise, talk to someone about it if you can. Connect with someone And we have to realize that there are moments when people need to complain, actually, and they need to vent, but they can do it in a productive way, right? Because, you know, everyone needs that outlet, because there's a lot of different emotions that can arise, and one of them is anger about the situation. And so to even, you know, go outside if you can, lie down on the grass, you know, and just kind of let out some of the, you know, vent out loud, you know, to nature, take walks in nature, you know, physical exercise is obviously very good for releasing a lot of this pent-up energy and emotion. You can play music. If you are with other family members, play games, you know, try to have humor, be creative. And then for those that have loss in their life, you know, loss of loved ones or friends, or even the loss of connection, really allow yourself to grieve. Allow your emotions to rise and give yourself time to heal. It's very important, because this is a time when we need to get in touch with our emotions. And so often we suppress them or put them aside or don't have time for them. But now is the time to really move inward and allow your emotions to rise. All of your emotions are actually positive in the sense that they're talking about something that is going on inside of you. And when you listen to them, then you're able to take action if necessary, to begin to understand. And one of the things that also happens mentally is that your brain wants information. Your brain is trying to figure out what's happening. And so people will be taking in a lot of information. But again, as I was talking about earlier, we don't know very much about this right now. And so there's a lot of theories out there, and some of them may prove to be true, and some of them may not. But if you overload your system with too much information, it can cause you even more anxiety and stress. So take news in with just bits of information at a time, and stay away from a lot of the media for a while, so that you can take time just to look inside, to nurture yourself, and to have that sense of safety inside. Because once you have that sense of safety and peace inside, this means that you are centered, and it allows your prefrontal cortex and your higher mind to engage. And that's when you can move into a more positive framework to be able to see opportunities and to be more creative, to think about your life as, what can I create in the future? What kind of world do I want to participate in? So those are a few. I have a lot more, but those are a few of the things that you can begin with. And again, it's first kind of looking after yourself and then reaching out to other people.
Yes, I love what you said about what can you create for the future, because I think most people would say and agree that the world is not going to look the same after this. Things are going to be different, and that's probably a good thing. And so to think about, how do I want my world to look? And that can be very empowering, and taking small steps towards that.
Right. To see that what have I learned and experienced in my life that can be useful for creating a better future. And one of those that we find the necessity for right now is the need to care for others, right? To be kinder to other people. because again, since this is a worldwide phenomenon, we're realizing our interdependence. And I can say one thing about the nation that we live in, we have a high value on independence. And so we've kind of forgotten that, we rely on everyone around us. And so we have a responsibility to care for those around us and not to just feel self-absorbed or entitled, but to actually reach out and how can I make the world a better place? Can it be in the way that I treat other people? Can it be in my relationship to nature and the environment? In what ways can I make a difference? Can I be kinder to my family? Can I be more patient? Can I understand that, everyone has a level of stress right now, and that in this experience, perhaps there's a huge opportunity for the world over, right? To realize how we can come together and be more cooperative with one another.
Definitely. Yeah. So some people welcome change. Others are afraid of it. So what kind of advice do you have for those people that may be afraid of change? Because we're in accelerated change right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are in accelerated change. And change, when people are afraid of change or they find it challenging, it really is about the fear of the unknown, the fear of I don't know what the future will bring, the uncertainty and how uncomfortable that feels. And that really arises from their past experiences in life, because the future is always unknown. And when we can come back into the present, and that's why I talk about safety and nurturing yourself to a safe and secure place, finding what helps you to feel safe. Because from that place, then you can realize, well, right now, I'm okay. Right now, I'm feeling that I am safe, everything around me is okay, and that looking at the past, when has change actually been good for me? So we have to realize that our brains record the negative experiences and make them more prominent, and that's just to keep us safe. And so we need to actually be conscious of our positive experiences and to enhance those over the negative ones, and to remember the times in our life when we have had challenges and how, what did I do at that time? How did I keep myself safe and protect myself? And what new opportunities arose? How did life lead me? I think one of the things that I've learned in my life is that no matter what was happening, life was really guiding me. And so there's something greater than my small self, something greater than my personality that leads me into better ways of living, into more opportunities, into more possibilities. And so that's how we can begin to face the unknown and to move beyond our fears and to see that I have the power inside of me, and there's a force that's even greater than my personality that I can tap into, that can lead me into seeing ways that I can create a better life for myself and my family. Because I think you're right in this time that this brings up kind of a fear for people that the world is falling apart. And And so, that's kind of what we're seeing around us right now. Everything that we've known that was kind of stable and solid, the businesses, the restaurants, and there's going to be loss, and it's painful, and it's very sad. But to realize that humans are adaptable and that we can recreate the world in a better way, and that humanity has through time. So to have the longer view, to have vision, and to look forward in our lives, right?
Yes, I think that's really important. And for what we're seeing here in the United States, it seems to be the most polarized now than it's been probably since the Civil War. What techniques can we use to listen to one another and somehow find common ground? Because I see this so much on social media that we can't even listen to another person anymore.
Yes. So the first part of that in listening is, first of all, to go back to listening to yourself, right? To be aware of what are my values, and to realize again then, if I know what my values are, can I be curious about what other people's values are? So initially I was talking about the difference in the way people are feeling the fear. And that's really important to understand, because if someone is feeling physically in fear, that's their primary value and what they are going to protect right now. If somebody's primary value is their freedom, that's what they're going to protect right now. If somebody's primary value is their economic security, that's what they're going to protect. So first of all is to be curious. It's like, okay, this is what's happening for me. What's happening for you? If you are a person who values freedom above everything else, so at the deeper level, what's happening for you? So that's the way we begin to listen to someone else, is not to blame them or to say that they're wrong and that you're right, but to realize that this is bringing up stress and fear in everyone, and it has been even before this virus, right? The polarization is about people's values. It's about their values and about their security. That's what we're looking at. And it's also about the way that people are raised, their families of origin, the places in the country where they grew up, and the familiarity they have with those around them and the belonging. So when you are in a community, belonging is very important. So you're going to shape your values and your ideals normally around mostly what the people in your community believe. And obviously there are people that will disagree or rebel against the belonging of their community, and they may leave and find another community that they resonate with. But it's to realize that part, that everyone comes from a place of connection and belonging, safety and security. And those are primary to the stability of your mental health, of your emotional health. And start from that place to talk to people with that kind of compassion. Then we can talk about our own vulnerabilities and to share, our concerns, as well as to find out, other people's, what are your concerns? What has shaped you in the past? What have your experiences of life? What have they taught you? What are your strengths? To be curious, to actually care about other people, and to have compassion for them too, where they grew up and what they learned.
Yeah. It's interesting you're talking about values so much, because for those that study astrology, and I have an astrologer on once a month, and we talk about astrology quite a bit. We have Uranus and Taurus now, and it's all about changing and really reflecting on our values and what we really value. And I really see this time with a virus is bringing that up. Like, do we value our health over the economy? I think we're right there right now in the world with do we open up now or don't we? Is it okay that all these people die, or do we need to make money? So it's again this balancing act of values. It's quite interesting how it's playing out on the world stage right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always believe there's a gift in everything, Dorothy. So what gifts do you see that are coming from this time?
Well, the gifts that I see are, one, is that people do have an opportunity to be able to look inside of themselves and to realize that, and to empower themselves with that, and to realize that they have been guided in their life and to connect with their inner guidance. And the other major opportunity in the world is to see that we are one world, we're one breath. So one of the things that early on that I thought was pretty profound about the way that this transformation is occurring with us is to see how this invisible virus connects us through the breath. And I mean, it's all about the breath.
Isn't that interesting? It is. It is.
Yeah.
And the lungs are about grief. Yeah.
Exactly. So grieving for the world, grieving for our family, grieving for our loved ones, for the environment, bringing up the grief and bringing up the joy, right? So that's the opportunity. The gift of bringing up this connection to the breath, that every time I breathe, that I'm inhaling the breath of all my ancestors, that all of my ancestors, your ancestors, the world over, we are breathing the same air. It's one air, and we are connected by that air. And so we can see our connection with each other, that we are one family, one world. All of the animals are breathing this air, the insects, we're connected through the breath. And the virus is showing us that connection, how easily that our breath reaches another, right? How our breath brings in the vital life force of life and the essence of source energy and this interdependence and interconnection. And that's the gift. The other huge gift we're seeing right now is the gift of families being together that are stuck at home, right? And yes, they may have squabbles, they may get into disagreements, but they're learning how to connect instead of just being on their phones or on the computer. They're getting out. I see people in my neighborhood playing with their kids in the front yard. It's wonderful. People out biking, people walking, so there's more connection. And that's a huge opportunity to connect again with your family members and your friends and to actually get to know them. And so how important this is for children, with parents that work, that I get to have this time with my parents. So make the most of that, really, have meals together once again and to play together, have games. Then there's also the aspect of, in the larger community, in what ways can I give now? What ways can I share my knowledge? How can I give back to my community? So another thing that I see happening in my neighborhood is people are making masks and offering them. And one of the most precious things is there are children in the neighborhood that are painting little rocks, and they're putting them on everyone's home on their property. Yes. And so you walk around the neighborhood and you see these beautiful rocks that the children have created as just little gifts, and sidewalk chalk with beautiful phrases. Again, we're talking about appreciating each other and caring for one another. So that's one of, it may seem like a simple level, but it's those simple acts of kindness that make the biggest difference in the world and bring joy to people's hearts.
Yeah, so the children, you started talking about children. How is this impacting children? Is there something that parents need to watch out for, certain things that we can do for our children that maybe it's different than for adults during this time?
For children, it is, that they may not be talking about any fears. They wouldn't be aware, perhaps, that they're having stress or fears. But if you see your child being, going through a retraction or not eating, not sleeping, and this can happen to adults as well, then take the time to be with them and sit with them and to help them through talking about what is going on inside of them and to relate to them in that way of, helping them understand that it's okay, that it's normal to be kind of afraid or to miss their friends or to miss being able, to do their sports, right, with other kids because, they're not able to do that, or that how schools shut down, and even though they may be happy that school's out, that it may be difficult, to do schoolwork at home. And so being more patient and actually paying attention to the signs that children are distressed, and to notice that your own stress can affect your children, because children are like sponges. They're like little sponges.
Yeah.
And so if you're stressed, they will pick up on it and they may be acting out. And so their behaviors may change, but it's really a reflection of what's going on in the family, and to be aware of that.
Yes, all good suggestions here. And with kids, I think that's wonderful that they were using their innate creative abilities. I mean, they all want to create. I mean, kids are just naturally creative. That's what they do. That's part of being a kid and using their imagination, and to, again, that self-empowerment to say, okay, we can do something about this. We can make everybody happy. And so they can paint a little picture on the stone and give it away. I think that's wonderful. That's great.
It is, because you see people walking around and looking at the stones and smiling. And isn't that the best? Again, we're talking about the lungs and bringing back joy and happiness, and to be able then to appreciate nature, to appreciate the people around you. So I think, one of the things that we have been lacking in our busy lives is this relationship, and you're so concerned about that, the relationship to nature, and to realize how beautiful the world is, appreciating the springtime and the beauty, appreciating winter if you're in that part of the world, appreciating the cycles of life and how things do change. So if you realize that change is normal, change is constantly happening, and you can observe it in nature day to day. As I look out, spring is happening here in Colorado, and the leaves are just coming out on the trees, and the grass is beginning to turn green, and the birds are out building their nests. So once again, come into contact with that to see how life goes on and how we are regenerative as well as nature. We're a part of nature. We're a part of her. We're a part of the earth. And so we do have this restorative ability, and that we will make it through this and we will adapt. And so to have that positive framework and to move to that every day. So if you're a person, who likes to meditate, meditate. If you're a person who likes to do yoga, do that. If you like more strenuous physical activity, do that. But do whatever in your life that can help you to feel that energy of the vital life, force of life moving through you and your connection with source energy. Feel it, because that will empower you and strengthen you and create health in your body. And of course, there's many people talking about, ways to be healthy, what you can eat. And so listen to that. Listen to your body and what's necessary for your body, and to share that with others.
Yes, all wise suggestions. Very much so right now. For me, it's definitely getting out in nature. I've got to connect with the earth. For me, that does it to me. So, one more question for you, Dorothy. If people need more assistance coping with these challenges today for their mental health, where can they go to get assistance?
Well, if you have professionals in your area, therapists or counselors, you can get help there. I do suggest people that are in deep depression and could be suicidal, definitely call a suicide hotline. They are there to help you. If you're alone and not even sure of your mental state, reach out, call someone. I also, am a therapist, and through my website, you can connect with me and my email address. And I'm willing to help or to refer you to those that can help you. And in this time, a lot of it is reaching out and noticing internally what's happening and not denying it.
Yes, please get help if you need it. There's always assistance, and more people are talking about it now. I know that in New York State, the governor gives a daily briefing. The county executive may give a daily briefing, and there's always, helplines that are given out. And if there is any time in our history where it's not stigmatized to get mental health assistance, now is the time. So I just encourage everyone to reach out if you need it.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important.
Anything else you'd like to share with us today, Dorothy?
I would like to share something. There was a passage from David White that I love, and he's a poet, and he has a way with words. And he says, "We are all a sunlit moment, come from a long darkness. What moves us always comes from what is hidden. What seems to be said so suddenly and lived in the body for a long time. So look for these hidden places within you and use that guidance internally to really connect with yourself. And I send my love to all of you out there. And I know that each one of you is precious and deserves life, deserves to feel safe and secure, deserves to share your life with others. So remember that you are precious. And I thank you so much, Joan, for this time with you. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you, Dorothy. Yes, it has been wonderful. Such great information. I am so happy that you came on today, and let's keep in touch.
Let's do.
Well, we've come to the end of another show, everyone. And so next Tuesday is the third Tuesday of the month. And you know what that means. It's Loving the Earth Day with Jane Reading and I. And we'll be here for that. And it's a surprise of what we're going to talk about next week. So until then, if you need help, get it. Do something positive. Do what really makes your heart smile. And remember to laugh. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everyone. Much love. Take care.